get past my mandatory challenger. Let me get past my rematch clause, and then I'm gonna win, I'm gonna do this for us, and I'm gonna fight this undisputed fight. That's just honest. Rather than saying, I want the undisputed, he's dodging me, he's doing this, they don't want it. I'm giving them a deadline before they make this contract viable. If they don't get it to me in 24 hours, I'm not signing it. We get a contract in 23 hours. Well, we want this and that. We make sure we keep on plugging away, making sure that the deal is.
But why would they do that if they knew they couldn't take it? Why would they do that?
So this is where I can't understand, because we got it to the line where we just need to step over.
Yeah.
Which is the signing of the contract, signing of the agreement.
Do you not think he wants it? You think he doesn't want this fight now?
I'm sure he's a fighter, isn't he? Yeah. He's not gonna. What's the worst that can happen? You get hit. Yeah. You know, he's been doing it for years.
So you don't believe in this legal thing that happened in America? You think that's just a smokescreen?
No, that's real.
What's good, family? Smash the like button and subscribe. So we just heard there from your mans, Anthony, Joshua. Now I can't lie to you, man. I'm in a frustrated mood today overall. We just heard on my last video about Dillian, Goofy Dillian, just crying and whining, sitting on the side, not taking the WBC to court. We've just heard from him. And now we've got AJ gassing the thing up, protecting Fury essentially. Now, let me give you some background on this interview. You heard there, essentially, Gary Neville said to AJ, does Tyson Fury not want the fight then? The reason Gary Neville asked that question was because essentially AJ is talking through the failed unification negotiations which happened in May. Yeah, he's saying, well, we sent the contract and Fury didn't sign the contract. At which point you then hear Gary say, oh what? So you basically saying that Fury don't want to fight, he's scared to fight. At which point AJ comes in and starts shilling. Oh, and I've heard this before from AJ, and I've criticised it before about AJ. I felt it just frustrates me, because back in May when this fight fell through, shortly after that, as I've exposed, or as I reported on, shortly after the fight fell through, Tyson Fury got caught lacking and was pictured on camera doing nothing when Billy Ho Saunders' OAP's 70-year-old dad was getting moshed by security. Anyway, AJ came out and exposed it and was basically saying, Fury, you're fully scary, you didn't pay the charity you said you were going to pay, you didn't protect your best mate's old dad, etc, etc. And I thought back in May when this happened that, you know what, we've turned a leaf here, AJ's on it now. Yeah? I could back this energy from AJ, because he was feeling how I was feeling about it all. Now, I'm not saying that, everyone must feel like the YB, but I don't care what no one says. The YB feels the truth. And the truth is, Fury is scary. He don't want nothing to do with AJ. And that's never mind what I say, never mind what Fury says, never mind what AJ says. That's the truth. The truth is, Fury don't want it. He came out, gave it 10 out of 10 in energy, all rock hard for it, and then it falls through conveniently 2 days later. Just like when his last fight fell through with Wilder for July 24th. He came out shouting about Wilder this, Wilder that, and it falls through conveniently. So my point is, it's obvious what's going on here. It took them 6 months, in which they then magically signed. 6 months of Fury trolling about you got a deadline. The worst thing is, in this interview, AJ even mentions the fact that Fury was trolling about deadlines and that lot. So wait a minute, AJ. You've identified that Fury was taking the Michael for 6 months, and then ends up magically not being able to do it. But still, you want to defend him. Oh no, he's a fighter. And again, I've heard AJ say this line a few times. Oh no, of course he is. He's a fighter. He's like me. No, he's not like you. He's not like you. Because you don't operate like that. So why? I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's the fighter's code, this fake fighter's code where, we can never put a fighter down. What do you mean? He ain't like you. He don't want to fight. He don't fight the best. I've never heard of you involved in this kind of foolishness where you say, yeah, I'm going to do something, and then pull out and then blame everyone else and play the victim game. I've never seen you do that. So what do you mean he's like you? What do you mean? Of course, no, he's not scared. He's a fighter. Fighters, we're not scared of anything. Well, he is scared of something. Stop treating Fury, like you treat yourself. In your mind, you think, well, I'm a fighter. I'm not scared. But we know categorically, we know genetically, not everyone's the same. So just because you act a certain way, you can't impose that on everyone else. And ultimately, it comes down to follow people's actions. People will show you who they are. And Fury has shown throughout the years, don't forget when Fury first came back and he signed to fight Wilder, Eddie Hearn was the first one to give Fury a big contract. He gave Fury the AJ versus Fury fight. Eddie Hearn laid out a plan. Fury would be allowed to fight a bum, fight Tony Bellew, fight Dillian White, and then fight AJ. That was the contract. But just fight AJ on its own. Fury didn't want nothing to do with any of that. And the theme has been since, and that was back in 2017. We're talking 4 years later. 4 years later, how many approaches has Fury made? In fact, Fury's made no approaches. Because even his last 6-month thing, that wasn't an approach from Fury's team. In fact, what do we know? During that 6-month process, Eddie Hearn exposed they didn't do anything. They just sat there hating. I've done videos on it. Fury said, I'm not training, I'm not doing it, it's not going to happen. C19, no fans. That's all we got from them for 6 months. But you want me to believe that we're all fighting men and we all think the same, and of course he wants to fight, and of course he will, all this kind of business. It's just super frustrating. Stop making excuses for the man. And I'm confused where all the energy went. Now I get it, and I've said this before, but I believe that when you're super rich like AJ, yeah, I think that nothing really does bother you anymore. I think, yeah, back in May when he said them things, he probably was frustrated, but over the months, he's calmed down. Because when you're super rich, yeah, and you're super successful, that was a bump in the road for him. Don't really, you know what I mean? Whether he fights Usyk for 50 million or Fury for 100 million, who cares at that point? You know what I mean? It's all money. So I can understand from AJ's point of view how everything really is just friendly. It's all for AJ. I think it's just business for him. I'm not knocking it, but I'm just saying how I'm feeling. For AJ, I reckon it's just business. Well, whether I fight Fury for $100 million of business or Usyk for $50 million of business, it doesn't impact my life whatsoever on a day-to-day basis. Now, I can't even knock that way of thinking. But, I don't know, it just frustrates me, bottom line. In my world, AJ should have nothing good to say about Fury, and what gets me as well is the goofy AJ fans who say, YB, he's not like you, and YB, he's a Christian God. I don't give a crap about all that rubbish, truth be known. I don't care. You man think that the sun shines out of AJ's arse. In my world, yeah, there's right and there's wrong, and Fury is wrong. And when we have evil or wrong, whatever you want to call it, it must be cast out at every opportunity. AJ in every interview should be saying, Fury is a scary looking ass. AJ should be getting off all over Fury in every video. Why? Because that's what he deserves. And not only that, I actually think, yeah, as a strategy to get in this fight, if in every video, yeah, AJ says, oh no, Fury doesn't duck me, Fury's a fighter, man, he ain't scared of nothing, no, of course he wants to fight, he can't wait to fight me, and I can't wait to fight. If you keep doing that in every interview, well, I'll tell you what to do. You crazy AJ fans, yeah, you man, tell me what you think. Do you think that the AJ versus Fury fight becomes more or less likely? Or which kind of action do you think makes the fight more or less likely? If AJ taunts Fury and calls him out and punks him every time, or if he says, oh no, he's a real fighting man and he's real strong and of course he wants to fight me, which do you think backs Fury into a corner or makes it more likely for the fight to happen? Me personally, I believe Fury's ego is the best chance you've got, or playing on Fury's ego is the best chance you've got to make this fight a reality. If you keep gassing him up to the public and telling him, of course he's a fighting man, of course he's never ducked me, of course he wants to fight me, and then you've got people like Tyrone Booth shilling for Fury as well. Don't forget that. You've got the whole media, MTK cabal. They're already doing enough shilling about how Fury is the best fighting man and he ain't scared to fight no one and all this other stuff and covering for him. The last thing we need, or the last thing this fight needs, is you shilling for him as well. Because then he's got the full set. Then there's no pressure for him to fight AJ for what? Everyone already respects him, or everyone already saying he's the best ever, and he ain't scared to fight no one. That enables him to carry on fighting bums and carry on fighting Wilder. If you come out and start airing, or carry on airing him out as you did back in May, at that point, it at least then has an alternative narrative. Because the current narrative from MTK, and don't forget, MTK is very big now. IFL TV refused, or IFL TV, or the whole boxing social media refused to cover the fact that Fury pulled out of July 24th. That's just an example of how strong the MTK cabal is now. Yeah? They're changing the perception through censorship, essentially. But if you're out there pushing an alternative narrative, it at least gets it out there. At the moment, with you sitting there shilling for Fury, talking about how much of a fighting man he is, and of course he's never ducked me, that essentially gives him a free pass to carry on doing what he was doing. And I exposed it back the last 6 months. From December to May, when they were negotiating, yeah, I was saying, why is AJ being so quiet? Why is Eddie Hearn being so quiet? And just going along to get along? Why aren't they exposing what's going on? I knew it. I called it. This fight ain't never going to happen. And I had goofy AJ fans in my comment section telling me, YB, you're wrong. YB, I can't wait for you to apologise and all this stuff. Oops. You man ended up on your knees blowing the YB off. No doubt. 100%. That's what you did end up doing. Yeah? Because I can just read body language. I can read... What's the word? Listen. Whatever the word is, I can read it. How about that? Yeah? 100%. I can read Fury's vibe. And it wasn't rocket science. If you could just open your eyes a little piece. Obviously some of you man can't open your eyes. That's why you was confused. And you thought Fury wanted to fight. But I can't, to be honest with you, I can't even blame you man, yeah? Who think that Fury wanted to fight. Why? Because for 6 months... or for 90% of the time, AJ himself has been telling you, of course Fury's a fighting man, of course he wants to fight. So I can't even blame you, man. I can't even blame some of you dopey dons who thought that Fury really wanted to fight. Because Fury naturally has so many fans, and then you've got AJ also essentially acting like a Fury fangirl. Oh yeah, and of course he wants it, he's a fighting man. He's not a fighting man. He came back and fought 2 bums. Fury has only... People don't understand this. Fury fought Vlad and ran off. Fact. In Fury's career, how many big fights has he had? He's had 2 big fights. Vlad and Wilder. And I'm not being funny here. I've got more videos coming soon, but essentially, Wilder is exposed. Wilder does not have knockout power. You think he does. He does not. It's a fact. So in my book... Fury's had 1 decent fight and it was against Vlad. Because in my book, Wilder, he nicked a belt. Don't get me wrong, I think Wilder's probably the best of the bad bunch. But equally, Wilder is about the level of Bermane Stiverne. Which is why he went 50-50 life and death with Bermane Stiverne. That's Wilder's level. Don't forget that. Watch the first Wilder vs Bermane Stiverne fight. He was going 50-50. Couldn't do nothing in there with him. That's how good your man Wilder is. How long do you think Bermane Stiverne would have gone with AJ? Huh? How long do you think it would have gone? Bermane Stiverne would have been knocked all over the place. It would have been stopped within 8 rounds. 100%. But Wilder took all night, couldn't get him out of there. Oops. That's how good your man is. Wilder is as good as Bermane Stiverne. So don't be giving Fury all this credit for beating, essentially, Bermane Stiverne. That's the calibre of Wilder. Wilder is not all that, and Fury knows that, to be fair to him. He knows that's why he went... Why do you think, yeah? If Fury is such a fighting man, as you all keep saying, why do you think he went for Wilder and not AJ? But again, look at the narrative, the MTK narrative. What was the MTK narrative? Wilder's the most dangerous punching heavyweight in history. The most hardest punching man. They couldn't believe their luck. Fury and Wilder get to build a fight, lying to the fans that they're the 2 best heavyweights in the world, which, to be fair, many other people have kind of spouted on. Lennox Lewis said Fury and Wilder are the 2 best heavyweights. They've been able to do that. Fury's been able to fight a heavyweight who really is barely top 10. I think Wilder probably about top 10. I think Joe Joyce whoops Wilder. Usyk whoops Wilder. Dillian White whoops Wilder. Wilder is at best top 10. So the Fury's been able to take a top 10 heavyweight who nicked a belt and then turn it into the best ever. Him fighting the most powerful, the most fearsome heavyweight in the division ever. Instead of fighting Dillian White, Tony Bellew and AJ. That was the offer that was there. But fair play to Fury, because Fury got away with it. And has been fighting Wilder ever since. 4, 5, 6, 7, not 3, 4, 10 fights later. And now I've got AJ telling me about how much of a fighting man he is. What's he done to be a fighting man? What's he done to be what's he done to back this up? Don't forget as well, Wilder's also a very light heavyweight. He's light in the arse. He's light in the arse, 100%. He's not. He's a 220-pound man. We're in a different era of heavyweights now. 210 pounds is a cruiserweight. I'm sorry, it is. Tony Bellew weighed like 214. Wilder weighed 209. Don't forget that. What's wrong with you people? Not only is he not good skills, he's also light. Light in the backside, 100%. So I don't want to hear no more from AJ about how Fury's a fighting man. And that's another thing. Also in this interview, AJ was saying, "Oh no, he didn't duck, and I know he had, the legal case was definitely real." And yeah. Why do you need to say that for? If Team Fury want to come out and say our legal case is definitely real, that's their job to do that. But why are you, someone who you haven't seen, unless you, I don't know, maybe you have, but you haven't told us that. AJ, unless you've seen the legal documents, unless you've spoken to the judge and you've seen proof, why do you need to tell everyone else, tell the world that the case is definitely real? You don't know that. The same way I don't know that. And how suspect it came along, how it went from, "Oh, I'm fighting AJ" to, "Oh, the judge has just come through." That's suspect, I'm sorry. That, for me, is not a coincidence. It sounds to me like the whole thing was made up, to be fair. And they quickly had to bring the judge in to make out that they couldn't do the fight no more before Saudi started building the stadium, because Fury and Team Fury didn't want to end it with legal liability or financial liability, i.e. they couldn't pull out a month before because everything would have been built and there'd have been a lot of financial risk or there'd have been a lot of financial liability. So Fury knew, we have to sign it and pull out immediately. And so you telling me it's a pure coincidence the judge rapidly came through 2 days before he signed it? No, it's not. Either Fury always knew the decision was coming on Monday and he signed it on the Saturday, or they just made it up on the Monday. Anyway, either way, you don't need to be shilling about how real it all is and how he's definitely a fighting man. So let me conclude here. AJ, no one wants to hear about how much of a fighting man and how real of a fighter Fury is. Not until he's got in the ring with you. How about that? Isn't it? Fair enough. If you finish a fight with Fury, yeah, and you want to say, yeah, now he's a fighting man, fair play to you. But until then, given history, don't say no more about it. Number 2, about the case. Unless you've seen evidence, don't talk about it. Because all you're doing is giving credibility and gassing their mind up.